Yeah, all good. All good. Good evening. Just going for a nice, peaceful walk this evening and had a bit of rain today, some welcome rain, finally, and freshen things up a little bit. Nice and fresh, going for a walk this evening. Beautiful. You can sort of smell that residue of the rain and the freshness in the air. And yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Now, I was doing a little reflecting on my walk this evening, how the opponent you fear the most is the part of yourself you refuse to face. Now, the shadow is the fear, insecurity, the anger, or self-doubt you try to hide even from yourself. I haven't had the opportunity to work with individual footballers and teams over a number of years. Now, one of the things I learned this primarily from a Thai boxing instructor that was training me in my late teens, early 20s, and he'd had hundreds of fights, and I was training in the off season, looking to keep in shape. A mate of mine, it was at the Mundine Gym in Redfern in Everleigh Street, and the trainer was from Thailand. He had like hundreds of fights, and I was doing some training, and it came to a point where I was going to start to spar a bit. And with that came a bit of fear, and I asked him around fear. I said, all those hundreds of fights you had, and he's a well-respected trainer, one of the most respected trainers in the world. And I said to him, I said, did you ever get afraid? Did you ever get afraid going into the ring? And yeah, he said that, yeah, he did. And we had this sort of conversation. Sort of cutting a long story short, over the years, it's something that sort of I thought about, and it's influenced the work I've done in football. What you avoid influences how you perform, particularly under pressure. It might appear as hesitation, frustration, excuses, fear of making a mistake. For example, and I speak anecdotally here, I'm not here to give advice or make suggestions, by the way, it's just purely my own perspective. A footballer may blame the referee, teammates, coaches, butcher, baker, candlestick maker after a poor game. They could blame everybody else other than themselves, when the real issue is the fear of not being good enough, the fear of not being selected in the team, the fear of not making it for that football team, so to speak. And I reckon that growth begins when you acknowledge the fear and work with it. Now, when I say acknowledge it and accept it, I'm not saying resignation. I'm saying accept it's there, like knocking on the door. You accept the knock is there, so the fear is there. And I suppose it's about noticing the emotional reaction. And some of the work I've done with players in the past, when it's appropriate and applicable circumstances, is around kind of naming the emotion underneath it, and choose a constructive response. Instead of saying, well, I don't care if I don't get selected for the team. I don't care if I make a mistake. I don't care if I play badly. Instead of saying I don't care, acknowledging it, that it is a fear of not being good enough, acknowledging that it is a fear of failing, acknowledging that. And once you acknowledge and accept that, you start moving forward. You might say to yourself, for example, well, yeah, I am afraid of making a mistake. I am afraid of receiving the ball. But equally, it's working on it and saying, even though I'm afraid, I'll still show for the ball. And obviously it sort of goes a bit deeper than that, and I'm not making suggestions or recommendations. I'm sort of giving you like a rough idea in a short talk, my perspective. And I liken it to the shadow. I liken the shadow, so it's, Jungian. The shadow is like an opponent who, the shadow in psychology is sort of Jungian, and it's another story for another day. But I liken the shadow is like an opponent who studies every weakness you refuse to examine. And once you turn around and face it, it stops. It stops controlling the game. But that's my take on it. Everyone's got their own sort of take on things. That's my sort of perspective. It's always good to hear other people's thoughts and feedback.